It's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head chef of the Pemberton Township Food Service Program and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello, welcome to another edition of What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli. Today we're going to show you a combination of some professional techniques that are going to help you folks at home prepare a delicious meal without really hurting your pocketbook. Many of the dishes we are going to be preparing for you on the program usually have a classical background, and many times the tips that we can show you based on that experience and knowledge is going to show you how to save a lot of money. Things like the old butcher shop and the bake shop, where our money often went a lot further than it does with our prepackaged and prepared foods, you're going to learn how to do them by watching our program. Our program today is going to show you how you can utilize cuts of chicken, but we're also going to show you how you make up the cuts of chicken yourself. We are going to take you step by step and walk you through breaking down a whole chicken, which if you have been comparing prices at the supermarket, the difference between the whole bird and cut up can be as much as $1 per pound. So depending upon the weight, we're going to save you upwards of $1 per pound. The first thing we want to do is explain the parts of the chicken. And although you may say you know what they are and you know where they are, we begin with the chicken and it's laying on its back as I have here, and I'm going to explain what parts are where, because once I get it apart, I don't want to confuse you. The first thing that we do is remove the giblets, which are usually packed in a bag, either cellophane or wax paper, and we are going to hang on to them because we are going to obtain from that a byproduct that many of you buy. The byproduct is stock or chicken broth, and I have a quart of it here that we're going to use, but we made that ourselves today. We didn't have to go out and buy that and purchase that. So anytime you don't have to buy anything, you're saving $1. Now I have a chicken here. The other thing that I want to show you before we get started, as I said, we're going to walk you through it, so we're going to start you off with very basic stuff. Instead of beginning with a very big or an expensive knife that you may not have, such as a boning knife, the knife that I have here today is very small, and it's a paring knife. Now, you may say, gee, my paring knife is really in bad shape. So if you're going to follow the program, what I suggest you do is buy a paring knife. It's the cheapest knife of a set that you can buy. Begin with a good one, because you can do many of the things that we're going to show you today with a good paring knife. We're going to begin by taking the chicken and stretching it out a little bit so that the parts are easier to define. And what we do is we pull out the wings so you can see them. I've got it with its back down and its tail facing me. So what I do is I put my hand right on it and I pull the drumsticks toward me, just like that. Now this is actually the natural state that the chicken's in, but you can see that they're very big and awkward to package. So we scrunch them all up so they pack real nice. So we pull it back into its more natural shape, and it's much easier to define the parts of the chicken. You can see the thighs here with the drumstick, so there's your leg, and then up in here is the breast of chicken with the wing. All right? And they're the pieces we're going to pull off of that chicken today, because we're going to show you how to make a boneless stuffed breast, and we're going to show you how to take the legs, which are even inexpensive to buy if you were to buy them already cut, and make a very nice dish out of that. All right, so our first cut's going to be right on the top of the chicken. By pulling the legs, you can see the skin stretches right here, and what I'm going to do is cut only the skin right now. We go right through there, and I'm cutting the skin down toward the board, and I'm cutting the skin right out toward the back of the chicken. And then I'm going to cut straight down, staying against the chicken. Now, there's two legs, so you get to see it twice. We're going to cut that right straight through there. Cut the skin only right there, and then when I get to this part right here, I'll cut it against the body of the chicken. And then all I'm going to do is flip the chicken over, and hanging on to that leg now, you just give it a little push, and it'll pop right out. You'll see this little bone will pop out, that little white bone. Hold the leg, start from the tail end of the chicken. I'll turn it so you can see. Keep the pressure of the knife going toward the body of the chicken. Pull up on the leg, pull down with the knife, and give it a little pull, and it comes right out. Now all I'm cutting again is skin. And what we have right there is a chicken leg that's been removed from the chicken. And like I said, since there's two legs, we get to do it again. The other side, we just give that a little push, cutting against the body, pushing down on the body, pulling up on the leg. It comes off nice like that, and we just cut that skin. And you have a nice chicken leg taken right off. So now we already have chicken parts. And I'm going to leave the legs right here on the board because they're the first ones that we're going to do. Now, a simple procedure for you to do is to take the breast end where the neck is, and in the center of the breast on a turkey where you would normally stuff it, and you feel around right there and you'll feel a little bone. That's the wishbone, and it's very, very small. And what we do is we just make a cut anywhere against that bone, anywhere, and that bone's going to jump right out for you. So you just put your little knife between that little bone and that breast, and we should be able to pop that up and pull out one half of it. Once you have one half of it, you just cut down for the other side of that little tiny wishbone, and you're all set. And you have them cut loose like that, and we just take him right out. And that's the other half of the wishbone. And that comes right out of the front. Now the only thing that we have in there is the keel or the breastbone. And we're going to feel down the chicken, the breast of it, and you'll feel that keel bone. Now the reason I tell you to feel it is because they're all not straight. These aren't stamped off a machine, no matter how similar we get, and some of them lean one way or another. And without cutting toward yourself, you're going to just make an incision in the skin, just like that, and you'll see the bone. And once you see the bone, put the knife between the breast and the bone and just cut against the chicken without cutting against the meat. I'm going to say that to you again. You cut against the chicken, the bone, without cutting the meat. And then I'm just grabbing that chicken breast and I'm just pulling that right out. And if I go right on down here, I hit the wing. Now I grab the wing in the upper part of the breast, just turn that little devil right over like that. And as I pull, I'm cutting, you can hear that. I'm just cutting it right against the chicken. Now you're worried maybe about that little piece that I've got my hand on right now. That's called a chicken finger or a chicken fillet. That can be pulled off anytime. So if it pulls off, it's no big deal. Pull that off, throw it out of the way for now. So we got the chicken breast there, and now we have the carcass with just the one breast left on it. And it's very simple to do. Now, you will find when you work on these, one side or the other is going to be easier for you to do. That's because you're either right-handed or left-handed, and one side's going to seem easier. Naturally, for the close-up shots, I show you the side that's easiest for me. Now we're going to do the second side, which for you left-handers is going to be a lot easier. But it's the same procedure. Pull the breast meat away and cut against the body of the chicken. And you can see that if I slip, I hit the board. I'm not going to snip my fingers off. I can always get more chickens. And I just cut against the chicken and pull that. Now, you can, once you get it there, you can just about pull that right on off. And the only difference between this one and the other one is that the fillet, or the chicken finger as it's called, is stuck on the chicken. So you have to get that off of there. So you'll have that little chicken fillet there. That gets put up there with the breast for a little later on. And all you're going to have left is a chicken carcass. And if you take a look at what's left here on the board, you'll notice that the breastbone is there, the ribs are there, and the back is there. And if you listen, there's really no meat left on there. The only thing left is a little bit of the connective tissues that hold the ribs and all that together. And they're very, very thin and really of no consequence in cooking except for their flavor, and that's what we're after. So they will be boiled later, and we will make a little chicken soup or chicken juice. The real term for it is chicken stock. Now we go back to the legs. And when you're doing the legs, what you want to do is take a look at what you're doing first, and remember and try to think of this as being only one bone going through the center of the leg. And if you can picture that all you've got to worry about is that getting that one bone out, you're not going to have any problems. Now, one other knife that you should have is some type of heavy knife in your kitchen. Make sure that it's not your good slicing knife, which has a thin blade. Make sure it's one of your cook knives that has a fairly heavy blade. And locate the end of the drumstick, and this is called the knuckle, because that's about what it looks like. And make sure your own knuckle is far from the knuckle we want to remove, and take this corner of your knife, and right at the very thin part of that drumstick, right there, you just take that off, just like that, okay? And that is gone. So we get rid of that. And that is going to facilitate taking that bone out. It's going to make it so simple, you're going to love it. So I'm going to show you that one more time. Heavy knife, look for the thin part of the knuckle, make sure your hand is down the other end, don't raise this thing real high, and just drive that right through the chicken. Just think it right through the chicken and it'll come off that simple. If it doesn't, take about 3-4 whacks at it, you're not going to hurt it. Make sure your hands are out of the way and you won't have a problem. Now we're going to begin taking his thigh bone out. And that's not a problem. For the part that is showing, if I turn it over, this is called the skin side now. And then we have the other side of the leg, which only has half a skin on it. It's got skin in the drumstick part and none right here. So that part, you can see the bone there. Just cut against the bone. Pick a side, cut against the bone till you get about there and stop. Then you're going to take, and you should be able to, with your knife, just roll that around and remove that bone. Just take that right off of there. Once you get it like this so that you can get a hold of that little bone there, take your new paring knife now, and I'm going to tell you how to ruin the blade. But we're only going to take this 1/4 inch of the blade that we never really get to use, right down here. And that we're going to do, we're going to hold this chicken leg like that, and I'm going to scrape that right off. Because if I dull that portion of this knife, it's never going to matter. And I'm going to scrape that around. Now we get right into the knee joint. You'll see as we get down there, it's going to turn white. Wherever there's white, leave that with the bone. Just cut between that and the meat. Just cut right on around that. And once you get around that one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to pull that thigh bone off completely, or it's going to stay on if you're taking your time and going real slow. And if it stays on, I'll do one each way so that you don't panic when you're all alone. I'm going to just continue right on around that. And now I'm going to scrape that right on off. All right? Where it's stuck, I'll cut it. Where it's not, we scrape that. And we just go right on around just like that. Now where there's ligaments, which are the white ones, they're going to stay right on that bone. We don't care for those because they're real tough. So I scrape them down. And once you get past this joint, you'll see that it all becomes a nice clear chicken bone. And you just hold that meat like that and pull, that'll come right out just like that. Now you've got something on your board that doesn't look anything at all like a chicken leg. Remember, you've turned it inside out. So look it over, find the skin. Once you find the skin, you should be able to find that chicken leg, and you should be able to return that chicken leg back to a chicken leg. The only difference is now there are absolutely no bones in that one, and this one does have the bone in it still, and we're going to remove that. But if you look, there's really no difference in them in their overall appearance, but you've changed how they're going to cook and eat. All right, we're going to take that other bone right out of there. This one I'm going to do a little quickly so that you can see they don't take a whole lot of time. Chickens are, once you get rolling with them, they're very quick. Their connective tissue on them is nothing like the larger birds, turkeys and even geese, which are very, very tough. And they don't lend themselves to the type of cooking that we are going to do with these, because these are young chickens. Most of the time you get a turkey that's older, or you'll get geese, which are older and tougher, and the same with a duck. So you're going to be able to bone these out and use them. So you just roll that right on around. Roll around, scrape that, roll it, scrape it. There's one more set of connective tissues right there. And out comes the bone, just that quick. So you get a little bit of practice on it. Remember, we're talking less than 40 cents a pound for legs, so you can practice. If you ruin them, you can always poach them off and eat your mistake. All right, so we've got our legs set. Now we're going to give you a list of ingredients on doing the legs, because what we're going to do with these legs, now that we've got them boneless, is we're going to take the legs and we're going to stuff them. and we're going to make these boneless legs with rice. What we're going to do is we're going to set these up. We have the legs all ready. I've got some water in stock. I've got some cooked rice, salt, pepper, onion, and celery. And we're going to get these set up. I'm going to get all my ingredients ready. And while I get them ready, I'm going to ask you folks at home, while I take a short break, to pay attention to this.
Gosh, Darlene, it sure is amazing how much we have in common.
I know, Larry. We both love three-car pileups. We both were built in Buffalo.
And we both know wearing safety belts helps save thousands of lives.
Yeah, this is fascinating.
Don't mind Vince. He's getting over a bad breakup.
I know. Janet's picking up the pieces, too. They're in here.
I wish they understood it's all worth it to get people to buckle up.
Hey, lacerated lovebirds, I sense a major crush.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Talk about head over heels.
Hello, welcome back to What's Cooking. We have started one of the chickens for you so that you'll be able to see how they look. I'm going to set up the chicken leg. Remember, I left you, we had a leg ready to be stuffed. And all we're going to do, and if you notice, when we are preparing a show for you folks at home, and I do this at home myself, if I'm not cooking for a large number of people, I work out of a pie pan. And many times, if it's for 2 to 4 people, you're going to find that you can move these pie pans all over if you have a small oven. I'd like to give you a quick comment. When I put this in there, I'm going to remind you about the oven that we use today. Now remember, this is our boneless chicken leg, and what we're going to add to that is some celery. So I'm going to take a rib of celery, taking off that little brown end, and I'm throwing that over there with the rest of the parts of the chicken. A lot of people don't care for the bottom of that, so that goes over there. Now, depending upon how much work you've done with a knife, one large rib of celery may be a lot for you to handle, so cut that down to size so that it's very easy for you to manage. And we're going to demonstrate with one, since this is about all that I'm going to need to put in that leg. And what I'm doing, keeping my hand out of the way, I make all of my long cuts first. Any cuts I can make that are longer than what we're doing, that's what we're going to do. So I make the long cuts right there, and the smaller I want my finished vegetable to be, the smaller I make these long cuts. So these are really, really too small for a celery stick. See, they're real flimsy right now. Now I bunch them all up together, and we're just going to rock right off of that, and that celery is going to come off of there nice and small. And I don't have to go back over top of it. I don't have to cut it a second or third time. And that's going to be all of that. So we have our celery cut up, and if you're starting to wonder with the pie pan, see, I don't wash them, they're disposable. I put the celery right in that pie pan. I enjoy cooking, I don't like to clean up. We're going to take some of the rice out of here. This is just cooked rice. I took a couple cups of the chicken stock there and threw that over top of the stove with the rice. We brought it to a boil, and that was it. So there's nothing fancy in the rice. I didn't have to season the daylights out of it because the darker meat in the chicken leg is much stronger in its flavor. And since it is, that's going to add a lot of flavor to this. We're going to take an onion. What we're doing is we're going to take the 2 ends off of the onion. We're going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to just split that onion in half and peel it. Because most of the time when I cut an onion, the first thing I'm going to do after I peel it is I'm going to have to cut it in half anyway. So they peel much faster when you cut them in half. And we're going to put just a little bit of onion, not the skin, into that. So we're going to just cut down the end of the onion, nice and thin and small. And we're going to cut them off of there nice and small. That's about all I need. That you put in a little bag in the refrigerator and you're all set. That goes in there. What we're going to do is take a little bit of pepper, and I can use black pepper in here because it's not going to be seen. What I mean is it's not going to be out like a sauce, and some salt. May look like a lot of salt to you. You're not going to eat it, I am. The reason I'm putting a lot of salt in here is because, again, we're going to surround this with the leg, the chicken leg, and I want to season that chicken leg. Then all we do is mix that. If it's a little dry and you want that just a little, moisten it up just a little bit. And I mean just a little bit because the juices from the leg are going to come into that stuffing. Then you just take that leg that we had done earlier, kind of back it up a little bit, lay that stuffing right on there, and just push it through. Now, if you've boned these legs out yourself, what I'm telling you is going to make sense. You're going to put the rice and the stuffing right in where you took the bone out. And be generous with that. Lay it all over where the thigh is, and then I'm just rolling that over. Get that to stay still. Roll that over, and I'm putting that full skin side up. That full skin side is up, and then all we'll do with that is a little more pepper, a little more salt, and then what we can do with this to put it in the oven is we moisten the pan just a little bit, and then that goes into the oven. And that's how you would get our legs ready. Now, you want to microwave it, that's fine. If you don't want to bake them off, you can freeze them and you'll be all set to go just like that. So I'm going to tuck this one out of the way, right there. And I'm going to give you the next list of ingredients for doing the chicken breast. And while I'm getting you those ingredients up, what I'm going to do is get the chicken breast ready, because as I told you, we have one in the oven we're going to show you. We're going to throw together the chicken breast and get that in the oven. By then, taking a peek right now, the leg is going to be ready, and we're going to make a nice little sauce for that. So that's what all this noise is going to be behind you. What you will need is some bread, onion, celery, we already have that, some rubbed sage, or you can use poultry seasoning. The stock, which we talked about, the chicken juice, the boneless breast, which you now know how to make, a little bit of milk, flour, and cornstarch. So here we go. Bread, any kind of stale bread, rolls, anything. Don't get too concerned with being too fancy. Cut them up like that. Let me get another pan out here. Once you've cut the bread, cubes are fine, small. I find the smaller you make the bread into like a 1/2-inch cube, it's a lot easier for stuffing. You're going to be able to put your seasoning all over. So right into the pie pan. All right? The other half of the rib of celery is right here. Again, long cuts first. Remember that. That's how come when we cut something here, we cut it once, and that's it. So we made our long cuts. Now we're making our small cuts. And the stuffing that we're putting into this chicken breast is very basic. You can add anything you want to it. Maybe you like mushrooms, or you want to throw an oyster in there or something like that, go right ahead. This is a very basic, easy to make stuffing. And there's the other half of that onion. And in that goes. That'll run over once or twice with the knife, and it's set. And that's really what you got to have right here in your stuffing. Now we're going to put a little pepper to that. Sage is rubbed. It's kind of fuzzy feeling. You want to put that around like you would, use it in moderation like you would the pepper, because that is going to build in as it cooks. Now, what I mean is, you might taste this and it's not real strong when you first taste it. What you're going to find is that it gets a lot stronger as it cooks. We're going to put a little bit of stock in there. Let that bread suck that up. I'm going to put a little bit of stock into my frying pan here, where you're not looking. And I put about a cup of stock right here to boil, and I'm going to bring that over so you can see. That's right there in a flat frying pan, because that is really easy to heat up. And you're going to see how fast we can mix with that. So I've got that heated up. Now, we give this a stir. I find most people are really worried about stuffing. Remember what I told you about the legs? Same thing applies. You added a little bit of stock to this. If it's, oh, that's going to be perfect. I hate to do this when it comes out right away. If you do your stuffing and it's a little too dry, all you have to do is add a little more stock. Now, out of the pile of chicken that we did, we're going to show you how to make this stuffed chicken breast. What we're going to do is leave this wing on. And we're going to split that in half. I'm going to lay one right there. We're going to pull the other one up out of the stock pile here that we've got going. And we're going to just cut that right off. And that's what your breast will look like there. And we're going to lay that one right there. And we just bend them over and around the stuffing. And that is not going to unravel. And then we season that, just like that. A little bit of pepper and salt. And instead of adding stock to that, we've got that little bit of stock running out, and that's going to keep this all from drying out. So this goes into our oven. Now, I started that chicken leg, which is just about done, right at the break. And what we did with that is it's in an oven. Now, our oven is a little different. It's a convection oven, which means it has a fan in it. And an oven with a fan, by dropping the temperature, you'll cook it a third faster than you would any other way. And what we're going to set up is a little bit of sauce for this. Now, what I've got going here right now is some hot stock. I've got a little bit of cornstarch and milk right here. And what we're going to do with that stock is we're going to turn it into supreme sauce. And all you need is milk and chicken stock, and you thicken it up and you'll have a little supreme sauce. Now, instead of adding water to the cornstarch, what we'll do is add the milk. And we mix that right in there. Dissolve that cornstarch to that. And I'm going to use the whip right here. And we're going to just put that right in there. And that's going to be a real light in calories and very light in flavor, the sauce that we want. Now what we're going to do is hit that with a little seasoning now. You might be looking at that and saying, well, that's nothing more than a cream gravy. Well, you're right. That's sort of how it's made, but we're using the chicken stock to it. So we season that, we stir that around, and we're going to check out and see how our leg is doing. And remember how small we made it, and it was boneless, and it cooked up real nice, and it cooked up real quick because there's no bone to it. What we want to do with this, I want to let you see all of the things there, so we're going to puddle this on there. Just enough to fill up the bottom of that plate, and we're going to set that leg right in there. And what that's going to give you now is a boneless chicken. If you'd like to obtain a video copy of our show, send a check for $19.95 to What's Cooking. Be sure to say show number 1. Make your check payable to Pemberton Township High School.